Good morning again, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining today. I want to welcome you all to the special edition of our Children's Mental Health Matters webinar series. My name is Roni, and I am the Child and Family Program Manager at MHAMD. And our speaker today, Joan Balbuena Hernandez, will be presenting part one of two series called Our Bridges of Support, Part One, Building a Strong Foundation for Kids' Emotional Safety. Today, what we will be learning about are simple, caring ways to help children feel safe and calm. This workshop offers practical techniques like breathing exercises, grounding activities, and creative supportive routines. We'll get to discover how to help children share their feelings and build that confidence that's very important for them. Perfect for parents, teachers, and caregivers who want to make a positive difference. Today, we'll learn how to create a caring and safe space for children where they can thrive and develop as the confident adults that they need to be. So, our speaker today, Joanne, is a distinguished professional with a remarkable career in the nonprofit sector, recognized for her exceptional expertise in relationship building. Inspired by her love for family, Joanne moved from Puerto Rico to Western Maryland to support her sister and her oldest niece, who was born with Turner syndrome, a congenital heart defect, and was later diagnosed with ASD, learning disabilities, and anxiety. She later welcomed her second niece, also born with a congenital heart defect and now experiencing behavioral health needs. Joanne has worked in group homes supporting reentry youth as a family support worker, providing home visiting assistance to families navigating hardships, as a neighborhood partnership coordinator, leveraging her connections to elevate the social capital of families in her community, and as a program director, improving service delivery and increasing volunteer engagement for a local organization that provides essential items at no cost to families in her county. She is a certified peer support recovery specialist and holds certificates in restorative practices and a variety of promising practices parenting programs. She also holds three teaching certificates from the University of Puerto Rico for preschool, primary, and elementary level general education. Joanne has dedicated her career to fostering meaningful connections, driving collaborations, and achieving impactful outcomes. And Joanne, we are so excited to have you today for our first part of this two-part series. We welcome you, and I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Roni, so much for that introduction. I wasn't expecting my bio to be read like that. I am nothing more than just a friendly neighbor that's hoping to see better outcomes for the children in her community and in the state. So please allow me a moment to pull up my PowerPoint and share my screen. So do not be alarmed. You should be able to see my presentation on Microsoft PowerPoint. And now the full presentation. I will make you small, and by that, what I mean is that I won't be able to see your amazing faces and names, but Roni will be checking my chat, so feel free to chime in the chat, raise your hand, take care of yourself while we're doing this. Uh, I might share two disclaimers. One is a trigger warning because I may share things that might be triggering for some of the audience. So please make sure that you take care of yourself. And if you are triggered by something that I say, you may, if you'd like, stay at the end and we will make sure that you are safe to continue with your day. And my second disclaimer is that you heard my background, I am not clinically trained to provide clinical advice or make any diagnoses. What I have is a bunch of trainings and certifications and lived experience that allows me to be here in this platform, sharing a little bit about my journey as a provider, as a human, as an aunt. Um, in supporting families and children in my community. So this is the first part of a two-part series, Building Bridges for Support. And this one is Help First. It's building that strong foundation for kids' emotional safety. A lot of the content today might not be a surprise for some of you. I would love for interactive opportunities, so may feel free to chime in the chat, to raise your hand if you have questions, comments, if you have techniques or tools when we get to that part. Feel free to share. I think that it needs a village to be able to support and help children. So let us be the village that our children need, and let it start today. That when where we start sharing some of the things that have worked for us. So keep in mind that face because that is filtered and angled and beautiful, and I have my eyebrows done and everything. Don't look at this one. So remember this Joan and not this Joan. Joan Balbuena Hernández, es un placer. It is my pleasure to be here with you. I am the bilingual training and outreach coordinator for the Parents Place of Maryland. And aside of that, I also support the families that are experiencing behavioral health needs that are Spanish speaking in the state. So I do those sort of two roles within PPMD duty as well as duties as assigned, as we all know, nonprofit life. Our mission at the Parents Place is to empower families as advocates and partners in improving education and health outcomes for all children and loved ones with disabilities, special healthcare needs, and those impacted by behavioral health challenges. We have been in Maryland for 35 years. We were established in 1990 as Maryland Special Education and Health Behavioral Health Information Center. So we are the state's PTI and F2F. So feel free to reach out to us for any supports throughout the state of Maryland for families or as providers for peer support. We are governed by parents, and what that means is that our entire team, from the very top executive board down to us boots in the ground, are parents or family members of children or loved ones with disabilities, special healthcare needs, and behavioral health needs. And what that means to me personally is allowing you the great honor of meeting the reason why I do the work that I do. So this is the reason why I am here today in Maryland, particularly. I have my own personal journey, which I won't discuss this session, or I will talk about that in the next session on the 19th. So the reason why I'm here, let me allow you to my baby, Aurora Margot. She's 2 months old. She'll be 2 months old at the end of the month. And right now she's developing. Typically, we have no concerns at this point, but I know that if I were to have a concern, I will reach out to my teammates at PPMD to help me navigate any hardships. And then I'll go then with Elena. She turned 8 in February. She has the flower dress. She is my Spitfire. She is the joy in my days. I pray for those that encounter her without one of us being present because she is feisty. We are in the process of a diagnosis for some behavioral concerns. So we are giving Elena the tools and techniques so that she can develop authentically, remain safe, and make sure that others around her have positive interactions with her. And then the true reason why I became an advocate, special education is so important to me. What I do, the work that I do is Isabel Sofia. She just turned 15 on Friday. She is a 15% chance pregnancy with Turner syndrome, congenital heart defect. She also has one working kidney, polydactyly, autism, learning disabilities in math and writing. She has anxiety and depression. And we are working with supporting her and allowing her to access all of the services and resources she needs so that she can develop authentically and independently as much as she can. Um, like I said, she was a 15% chance baby. They told us that she wouldn't turn 5, like she would not make it up until 5, and we just celebrated 15. So Isabel very much is the equivalent of resilience for us in our life. Um, s- we overview of today, we went around what was PPMD and who we were, um, understand common signs and triggers of anxiety and stress in children, learn evidence-based techniques to help children manage anxiety, develop practical strategies for creating a supportive environment, and equip participants with tools to teach relaxation, grounding, and emotional expression. So, what is anxiety and stress? Anxiety is excessive worrying, is that fear that interferes with our daily life. It's fear of the of the uncertainty of what will happen, of how things will pan out. Is that need of answers and somewhat control of what will become myself or others. Um, and it impacts daily life. Anxiety is, according to the CDC, the most common mental health condition diagnosed in children, with a 7 to 10% of children being diagnosed with this mental health condition or disorder. And that is through the CDC's 2020 research. I know they just published one recently, but I'm assuming that we're pretty certain that that 7 to 10 may have even increased a little bit, especially after COVID and that reentry. This was prior to COVID. Imagine now, after in that reentry to society, sort of, for some of our kids for the first time. And then stress is the body's response to perceived challenges or threats. So we know that when we are stressed, we are in that lizard brain, at that very raw fight, flight, fawn, freeze response. There is not a lot of executive functioning happening. There's not a lot of prefrontal cortex happening. So how can we help our kiddos sort of like ease into that anxiety, regain control of their lizard, primitive brain, and then become more self-aware and more sustained throughout the day? That is sort of like what we'll try to like accomplish today. Finding techniques and tools that will help us do that for them. Some common signs and symptoms. So you have your different manifestations, right? So when we have mental health conditions, they are really closely aligned to our body. I am often a provider, a practitioner, a aunt that will ask, where do you feel that in your body? Because it creates self-awareness and a way of like rooting and sort of like finding solutions to appease what's not allowing us to be at peace. So you have your physical manifestations or symptoms, which are your stomach aches, your headaches, rapid heartbeat, sweats. You have tremors. You can have disassociative, which that falls more in like that behavioral sort of like space, but sort of like that sort of glaze over kind of look. And these are all ways that our body's trying to fight off that anxiety. We have a lot of kids, including my Elena, that will say on Sundays she becomes ill. The more Sunday progress into the bedtime routine time, she's excessive worrying, she has headaches, she has tummy aches, and it is because she's having the anxiety manifestation of Monday, the impending doom of Monday. Um, so we have techniques that we do with her so that we ease that physical manifestation. We have our emotional projections, right? We have excessive worrying, irritability, withdrawal. We have isolation here. We can have things like not wanting to do preferred activities or wanting to sleep more and be sort of like reserved or receded to ourselves, to our room, to spaces where we feel sort of like safe. Um, and that is also part of like sort of the body's way of adjusting to the unknown. And then we have those behavioral like avoidance, tantrums, difficulty concentrating. There's your disassociation, your avoidance. You have kiddos that may sort of react in a way that's not um what's the word, that it is like not necessary for like what's happening or what will happen. So they get triggered and they become sort of like that sort of fight, flight, fawn, freeze response. If anybody has any questions or comments, I cannot see the chat, but feel free to chime in if you want to add anything as well. I think that we have a decent group of people that we can take times to do that. Um, so what? identifying some of the triggers. So some of the common ones are academic pressure, social situations, changes in routine, and family conflict. I will preface like this presentation, we're talking about neurotypically developing children. We are not adding all of the narrow spicy stuff that can add additional layers of impact to these triggers, to those responses, to those physical behavioral and emotional manifestations. So just keep that in mind when when I'm thinking of my Isabel. I will always use my examples like I statements. So when I'm thinking of my Isabel, changes in her routine are exponentially anxiety producing. She has autism. So for her, things that are outside of her daily 9 to 5 will cause a lot of dysregulation. And although she has been able to find techniques and tools, she's still 15, she's still developing. And even though academically she is 15 and more, socially and emotionally, she is younger. So Isabel's chronological age is 15. Her academic sort of developing cognitive age is between 15 and 18. And then her social and emotional um, age, it's like 10 to 12. So she's emotionally like a fifth grader, in a 15-year-old body with 15 to 18-year-old brain capacity. So there is a lot of conflict within her, and you can see it when things change and she gets triggered, where her reactions might look childish for someone that's 15. And in her brain, she knows that she is acting in a way that's not appropriate for her age, but she just cannot control the outburst or cannot control the a manifestation once she's triggered. So mind you that this is just our neurotypical developing children. We all know, like, family conflicts, like if you're having a disrupted morning, the adults are having a disruptive morning, the children will probably have a disruptive morning at school. They might transfer some of that aggression, that frustration, that anxiety, worry into school, and it can take them up until like 2, 3 hours in the school day to be able to self-regulate and able to learn, um, and be able to access services and supports within school. So, on top of that, add that academic pressure. So it can become sort of like taxing for our little friends, especially the younger they are, because they don't have enough words to express those bigger emotions to the safe adults in their lives. Some evidence-based techniques, and we can practice some of them. I will go over them quickly, sort of just to touch base on them. I do want to give us some time to have like a little chat at some point. So you have your deep breathing exercises, and there's two of those. You can do inhale, hold, exhale through mouth, or inhale, hold, exhale through nose. If you are self-regulating for anxiety, you want to blow out as much air as you can. But if you're self-regulating for just centeredness, you want to in and out through your nose. So in through your nose, hold out through your nose. That contains the release. If you are trying to calm down your body because you are already dysregulated and it's sort of like anxiety provoked, then you want to have those belly breaths coming in from your nose, hold and diaphragm expansion, and then fully out through your mouth so that you can even include some noise that projects out that sense of like stress within your body. Mindfulness practices, here we have sort of I use it with like that. I don't know how it's called in English, veo, like, like looking out the window and choosing something and having your kid try to figure out what is it that um what is it that you're looking at? And then it creates that sense of space where the brain has to sort of like narrow down its focus to become full, right? And it's sort of like being able to zone into something that allows your brain to expand while being concentrated into something that you are able to see, hear, feel, or touch, and get regaining control by doing that, right? So also mindfulness can be asking not to think of anything, but that is harder for smaller children. So giving them something to focus on will allow them to successfully complete this activity. As they grow older, there is more intention of like playing a song that's calming and just like being centered in listening to the words of the song, or having the opportunity just to breathe and listen, um, to regain that sense of re-centeredness. Grounding techniques, one of my favorites, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like 5 things that you can see, 4 things you can smell, 3 things you can touch, 1 thing you can do. You know what I mean? Like you use your senses. I encourage you to add your proprioceptive sense. So that is like you're in your gut. That is like what makes you feel here and now in present. Our kiddos with autism have dysregulated proprioceptive senses. So that's why they sway and that's why they do hard work. So that pushing and the jumping is just to engage that sort of core. And then also your balance. So that is your vestibular sense, which is in your ear. And you can have the kiddos that are sort of like, I'm talking about autism because I'm talking about Isabel specific. And you can see those kiddos that are using like the noise canceling headphones, those kiddos that are using a lot of like stimming, verbal stimming, like humming or sing song or singy songy, like sort of speech. And that is sort of to engage that balance in our body. So when we are doing grounding techniques, make sure that you are also including that proprioceptive, that core, and that vestibular outside of our regular 5 senses. Another thing that's really like it triggers our immediate response is having sour candy. And you don't have to eat the whole candy, just putting it in your mouth and having that sort of like shift in the taste buds can help you get out of like an anxiety produced um state. So keeping that in mind, I travel, so I have like those pill boxes. I have sour head. I have 1 or 2 sour heads. So in the pill boxes, as if it was medicine, I have panic attacks. So that is something that I can do for myself to be ready. And although Isabel um is not a candy person, she's more a savory friend. I will make her sort of like put it to her tongue so she gets that sort of like trigger in the taste buds so that it can shift her state and help her regain some control. Establishing routines and environments. 3 things: um consistency, support, and common language. So 3 things that are important when we are establishing routines and environments is that we are consistent in the way that we are addressing behaviors and the consequences for those behaviors. The older the kids, the more likely they can participate in setting appropriate consequences for themselves. You will find out that they will have harsher consequences for themselves than you would give them. So sort of like having those conversations to start allowing that independence and auto-regulation processes. When they're younger, make sure that you are following those developmental appropriate practices. You can find those through the milestones at the CDC, talking to your pediatrician about development, or using, apps that can allow you to know where your kid is developmentally and what are some things that are appropriate for their social and emotional development and their cognitive development. And then encouraging expressions or feelings, using our words. When we have little ones, we used um, word association. So, for example, we're giving colors to emotions, we're giving numbers to emotions. Those are concepts that are tangible and they can see and know. Because what's being happy? What does it mean that you're mad? What does mad look like? What does it feel like? You don't know. Sometimes we as adults don't know complex emotions or how to verbalize them because we didn't have the support as children. So giving your kids words, oh, I see that you're feeling frustrated. Where are you feeling that in your body? We have kiddos that will immediately fist up when they are feeling frustrated or mad. And I was like, oh, I see that you are feeling angry. I can see that your hands, you have fists. Is that where you're feeling your anger? And then you find solutions to that, instead of punching a sibling or hurting themselves, sort of finding ways to challenge that. Like give them a stress ball, give them Play-Doh, give them a slime. Um, I will say that all of these techniques need to be taught when kids are in baseline homeostasis. You don't want to wait until they're triggered, outbursting, or already too far in that sort of like primitive response to be like, oh, let me teach you about how to properly use a stress ball. Or let me teach you how to do belly breaths. That is not the right time. You have to coast and wave until they're back into normal baseline to be able to teach these techniques. Preventive work is great work. So I always encourage people to be preventive rather than reactive. So you want to always prevent, equip them with what they need instead of react when it happens. They will be able to be more independent in self-regulation if they know what to do when it happens than you trying to teach them or react to what's happening. Establishing routines and environments, and these are like my three C's: consistent, clear, calm. Um, we have when we are I feel like this one, out of all of them, this one is the one that's gonna give you the best bang for your buck, because children thrive in routines, neurotypical or not. It is easier for us to know how to overcome stress, overcome hardship when we know exactly what's going to happen. So my encouragement for you today is to establish routines for different things throughout the day. Routine to getting ready in the mornings, routines to on our way to school. If you drive them, what are some things that you can do to get them in a state of like balance before you drop them off? Routines after school, bedtimes, dinner, like, and it's taxing at first because you have to put a lot of effort and thought into establishing them. But once you have consistently established those daily schedules and routines, you have clear expectations of what their responsibilities are that are age appropriate and developmentally appropriate, the consequences for things not being completed or done. And then you create a predictable environment, and children thrive in predictable environments. The more the kids know what to expect and what will happen, the less likely they are to get dysregulated. And it also decreases outbursts and decreases behaviors that might not be appropriate. And it also starts creating transference of skills. So when they are in school, they might be able to transfer some of the things that they have learned at home through the daily routines and include them in school or at after school, before school, childcare, or those spaces where they are accessing people and life. So one of the things that I love the most about being part of a racing community, and I'm not mean racing as in car driving, racing as in upbringing, um, it's the building a team of care for our children. When Isabel was born, she had Turner's. It was not very known here in Hagerstown. I am in Hagerstown. It was not very known for the providers here. It is one in 2,500 girls that will be diagnosed with Turner. So it's not that it's common. Like, I mean, it happens, but it's not like it's one in every five, like autism, or one in every seven, right? So the prevalence is higher, right? Lower. So one of the things that we did first was creating like a little fact sheet about Isabel. This is Isabel, this is Turner's, this is how it impacts her body, this is why she looks the way that she looks. These are all of the providers that she has currently and what we're working on developmentally through early intervention. And we would go to every appointment, every care team. We would go to Head Start when we went to apply with our little intro to Isabel. Um, it was important to us that we all had common language to communicate with Isabel. When we are able to create these supportive networks, we are basing our interactions and the services for our children in a collaborative way. We are all have one goal that was to support Isabel. We all had the consistent communication. We had shared goals. We had shared reviews. We shared everything in Isabel's world became part of this collaborative team of support for Isabel. And I will say that it did help us as parents feel secure and safe in leaving Isabel in spaces and with people that were not us because they all knew what we knew. And they all had the goal to support Isabel's upbringing and development and access to services. Um, Also, in teams, like it says there, we recognize each person's role in the child's well-being. We all have strengths. We all cannot do everything. So why would I not want to have X, Y, and Z be part of our care team when I am not able to provide those services that they can? So understanding and respecting the value of each of those members. Um, is crucial in having supportive teams of care. Why it matters? Because a strong coordinated team ensures consistent support, reduces confusion, and promotes better outcomes. Establishing a team means that everyone speaks the same language of care, and we all have one singular purpose, which is supporting that specific child or group of children if we're thinking it of like play groups or groups of service or therapy groups and that kind of like environment. So this can be individual to families or applied to like groups where even each of the parents, the children, and all of the providers are part of this team of care. Creating emotional safe spaces. This is one of my favorite things. We use respectful, non-judgmental language. We encourage children to share feelings without fear of punishment or dismissal. We promote independence and decision making, and we validate feelings in and teach coping skills. Children learn to trust their environment, develop resilience, and express themselves openly when they feel safe and supported. We want to make sure that our kids feel safe enough and seen enough to come to us first. When things are happening, when things are not happening, when they're feeling well, when they're not feeling well, when they are in their most outbursty of senses, we want them to feel like they can come to us first and seek our support first. If you are a provider, um, you will become a safe person for that child. So make sure that you feel honored that they have chosen you, um, to be their most authentic self. I know that that's hard, when you have a group of like 15 and they all want to be authentic. But it is our honor to be there for them, not the other way around, you know? It is validating their feelings, making sure that they feel seen, heard, making sure that they know that you won't laugh or you won't dismiss or disregard. And then treating them with the utmost respect because they have trusted you um to be their person at that moment of dysregulation. An emotional safe space fosters autonomy. And it fosters autonomy by allowing the child to build their independence and their autonomy. They feel empowered. to take care and control and manage their behaviors, as well as choosing and identifying the possible solutions to regulation. So not only are you the person that's providing them the safety and the security that they need or are seeking, but you're also the one that's strengthening their innermost self in knowing that they are feeling a type of way and they have the ability to fix or not fix, that's not the right word, to address um their emotions in the best way that's true to them. And then just some closing remarks. We will recognize those early signs, having those conversations with the adults, becoming part of that care team so that we can create those safe and supportive environments and routines. We use simple evidence-based techniques. We do these techniques that we talked about earlier in our daily lives. We try our best to practice them ourselves as adults. So why wouldn't we give the gift of regulation to our children? Um, Foster emotional expression. You want to make sure that they feel safe, seen, secure to express themselves by giving them words, by giving them signs, by giving them different techniques to sort of like communicate effectively. We as parents, if you know about the Center for the Studies of Social Policies, their protective factors framework, we are our kids' first teachers in how to communicate their emotions, right? The social and emotional competence of children. The adults in the safe adults in their lives are the ones that are helping them develop that. We have to make sure that we teach our children how to communicate their emotions and their needs in a way that's true to them and in a way that it is able to be um, get their needs met without being victimized, without being disregarded or becoming dysregulated. I often say that we raise children for the world and not ourselves. I will love Isabel, Elena, and Aurora regardless of who they become, what they do, who they are. They are mine, and I love them for that. I love them authentically for who they are, but the world doesn't have to. So I need to make sure that when my babies are out there in the world, in high school, in elementary school, and Aurora still at home, but soon in environments, that they have what they need to make sure that they are safe and seen and secure, that they can communicate what they need and how they need it, and how they're feeling in a way that's respectful of others and themselves, so that I don't have to be there to ensure that their needs are met. So it's sort of like an invitation to you all to sort of take the moment to look at the children in your lives, be it at home, at work, in systems, if they're involved in systems, and be that safe person, be the person that sees them, that allows them the ability to be their authentic selves, that allows them the opportunity to learn how to handle their behaviors and manage their behaviors by teaching them and giving them those tools. Um, and be supportive to those adults that are supporting those children, um, so that we are all together collaborative, ensuring that our children are safe and secure and developing in a way that's true to them and they can access the services and that they need eventually and build strong and positive relationships. So that is all. I will put in the chat the link to a very short, brief feedback survey about my training today. Just tell them that I'm fantastic, that I was here, that I did this, that you want to see me again, that you will come see me again next week. But I'll put that in the chat so you don't have to worry about the QR code. And then if you need anything at all, if you want to talk, if you want to deep dive into some of the things that I talked today, if you want some of our evidence-based infographics and info sheets that are in our website, please feel free to send me an email. You can call, and my extension is there. If you have a family in mind that might benefit from services, I will also put the link to our referral form in the chat as soon as I stop sharing. So you have those two things. You'll have the survey, and then you have the link for services for yourself or for someone else that you may know. We here at Parents Place of Maryland are ready to support. And just a reminder that for 35 years, we have been supporting Maryland educational, disabilities, and healthcare needs. And since last July, we have incorporated that behavioral health component. So we also are providing services for mental health, substance use disorder, and problem gambling. We are a free resource that serves the entire state, and we have family partners in each county. So I have a neighbor in your county that can help you navigate some of the things that we discussed today and some of the educational things that we may discuss at another time. So thank you so, so much for having me. I'm going to stop sharing and I'll put this information as well as those two links in the chat, and then we can open up for some common discussion questions.
Thank you so much, Joan. That was so insightful, and I learned so, so much. Yes, we're going to go into a time of questions or just thoughts if anyone has any. I did want to highlight a question that was dropped in the chat.
Mhm.
Mandy asked, and this was when you were talking about routines. I struggle with this. I set a routine, but how do I adjust that for things that happen in life outside of that routine?
That is a great question. Give me 1 second because I cannot multitask. I'm old. Hold on. Let me put that in the chat real quick. Because I don't want to forget to give you the resources.
Yes.
Um, so you have those two things going there. I'll put my contact here at the end. So great question. Yes, and that is where teams of care comes into play, because you can sort of like teach the people that are supporting your child on the routines that you have established at home. This is crucial for kiddos that are not neurotypically developing, sorry. Just because like they really strive on those routines. But I would encourage you to have conversations. Like for us, we are so very Hispanic of us. We all raise the children, right? My mom, grandma, aunties, uncles, everybody's part of the upbringing of children. Um, so making sure that all of us knew what was expected in that moment for Isabel, and being able to relate to other providers when we started Head Start. Like we went in, we made an appointment to go in before school started so that we could meet with Miss Lori, that was our Head Start teacher. And we developed the routine for getting into the classroom and out of the class with the teacher.
Mm,
So sometimes it'll take a little bit of time, and I know that there are systems that are more rigid, that are not as flexible. But as much as you can, you can make friends with your bus drivers, make friends with your teachers and the people that are receiving your kids at school or getting them in the bus to leave school, or before and after care providers so that they can sort of like help implement some of the routines that you have established, if not the common language. When addressing such and such, this is sort of like the language that we utilize at home, and they react in the most positive way when you say these things this way.
mm.
Um, so I don't know if that answers the question, but if you have follow-up questions, please feel free.
Yes, they actually clarified, but I think that was also very helpful. And mentioned also things like staying up late for an event or vacation. So it seems like those, miscellaneous things that come up here and there. How can we stick to those routines?
So super cool. Transitions are really hard and changes in routines are really hard. Communication will be your friend. Prepping the child for those changes in the routine.
Mm,
With Isabel, so with her autism, it takes a little bit longer. With Elena, it's a little bit easier. So Elena may need 1 or 2 days prior to the change for us to have a conversation of the expectations for that moment. So I'll take, for example, we went to Ocean City this past weekend for Mother's Day and for Isabel's 15th. Um, with Isabel, we started a month in advance. We did our calendar, we circled the day that we were traveling because we traveled during the night to avoid traffic. So we were gonna get there like around midnight, and that is way past bedtime. Bedtime for Isabel is like 9:30. So she was already like, "Oh my God," and I wanna go, no, I'm not gonna sleep, and this and that, and da 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 da. So we sort of like started that conversation a month in advance. It was supposed to be a surprise, but for Isabel, that cannot happen. So, having conversations with your children, they are capable of understanding so much more than we think. And if we set them up for success by helping them sort of like meet that transition head on, instead of like, poof, we're gonna be late today,
Mm.
we're gonna like change. We're gonna like we're staying up until like way hours because we're gonna party like it's our birthday. So you still party like it's your birthday, but prepare them. Like bring favorite snacks, bring activities that they might be able to do to calm themselves, to appease themselves. Talk to the person that's receiving you and see if they can watch a movie or if there's a way of connecting into Wi-Fi so that they can watch a movie and sort of like when it's bedtime, they can still have that deep, that calm down moment in an outside public setting. A lot of communication with kids when especially when they are triggered by changes in routines and with transitions, communication will be your best bet.
So helpful. Thank you so much for that. Any other questions or thoughts that anyone wants to share? And I will look through the chat to see if I missed anything. Maddie says, I also want to highlight the importance of self-care for adults and caregivers.
Yes, 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 Maddie, yes. Um, Energy attracts like energy. Keep that in mind. If you are dysregulated, if you are
Yep.
at your wits' end, if you're angry, if you're having a tough day, your kids will feed off of that. And you're like, but why don't you see that I'm already dysregulated? Why are you da 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 da? Calm down. Breathe for a second, hold it all in, and say something like, hey, but right now, mommy needs 2 minutes. I need you to find something to do. I will put a video for you to watch. I will give you your favorite toy so that you know where they are and what they're doing. And then you take those 2 minutes. You wash your hands thoroughly. You do some belly breath. You bilateral stimulation also works for adults. So sometimes using a soap with one scent and then a lotion with another, it'll trigger your smell sense and it can help you sort of like, wait, what are those two complementary scents that make me feel like I'm in the Bahamas and not in my living room about to like crash? Don't crash. You got this. You're a good parent. You're a great parent. You're a great adult. Um, Resiliency speaks about being strong and flexible and knowing when we have to break so that we can parent better.
Thank you so much for that. So, any final thoughts, questions, anything before we close for today? Okay, seeing none, I just want to thank you again so much for this very insightful, wonderful presentation. I want to thank the Parents Place of Maryland for being a partner and for all the amazing work that you all are doing to support families, throughout Maryland. I want to thank you all for joining us today. You will receive a follow-up email with the link to the presentation, a survey, and all the wonderful information that was shared today as well, too. And please complete that survey. We just want to see how we can better improve these webinars for you all. I do want to highlight again that this is a two-part series. So join us next week, Tuesday, May 19th, for our second part of this series. And that topic will be Bridges of Support, supporting kids and teens with compassion and confidence. We are still in the month of May, meaning we're still recognizing Mental Health Awareness Month. If you haven't joined already and signed up, I encourage you to sign up as a children's mental health campaign champion. You'll be joining nearly 1,000 advocates across Maryland that are committed to raising awareness about the importance of children's mental health. And for existing champions, if you visit our champion corner, you'll get details on the campaign and all the upcoming amazing events that you all are putting on in our community. So again, I just want to thank you all for the work that everyone is doing here. We look forward to working with you all to support families and communities across Maryland. If you have any questions or anything you want to share, you can reach us at info@cmhm.mhamd.org. Again, that's info@cmhm.mhamd.org. Thank you all so much and have a great rest of your day. Thank you all.